Welcome to Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy, where we seek to educate, motivate, and inspire professionals into starting their own healthcare businesses. Learn from leading healthcare entrepreneurs and other business experts as they share their journey and provide a glimpse into their playbooks for success. Loaded with valuable insights and actionable strategies, this show will guide you on your path to freedom. Now, please welcome your host, entrepreneur and healthcare practitioner, Jason Duprat.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tactical Tuesdays. On this episode, I want to talk a little bit about partnerships and strategic partnerships and why, if you're not considering partnering with somebody, why you probably should. So just to clarify the difference between partnership and strategic partnerships is when I'm referring to them in this podcast, typically partnerships are more of like a legal agreement, whereas in like you partner with somebody and they own a certain percentage of your business and it's very legal. They might own a portion of your corporate entity, whereas a strategic partnership is often a little bit less formal. Sometimes it's verbal, sometimes it's written, but it's just an agreement between businesses or individuals that are working together to create mutually beneficial relationships for both parties. So one quote that just recently came up in a book that I'm reading by Sam Walton called Made in America, he says, individuals don't win, teams do. And so I couldn't agree with that more. When it comes to business, you just have to very selectively choose the individuals that you're going to be working with. And when you're doing partnerships, like the math just is different than if you were in business for just yourself, because there's synergy, and with synergy comes a different multiple. With synergy, 1 + 1 turns out to equal 5, whereas if you don't have any synergy and no partnerships, 1 + 1 is equal to 2. So you can gain a lot of headway when you are in the right partnerships. And some of the benefits of partnerships are that it allows access to new knowledge, new ways of thinking. It could allow potentially the access to new customers, to new experiences, to new strategies, to new products, to new markets. There's a lot of value in partnering. And partnering, in my opinion, if done right, can really help to scale up a business larger than it otherwise could and also faster than it otherwise could. So one thing to keep in mind when you partner is that your reputation is being put on the line. So you never want to partner with just a crappy person, even if you think that it could possibly 10x your business, 100x your business in the short run. In the long run, it is definitely going to haunt you down the road. It's going to look bad for not only your business, but your own personal brand. And your reputation is something that takes years and years to develop. And so it only takes a few seconds to destroy. So when you're partnering, you want to make sure that you're partnering with the right individuals. Some people who are looking at partnering, they really just get disillusioned by the potential opportunity to work with somebody who's like crushing it, who's somebody who they look up to, who they think is super successful or a really high income earner. But I would caution you to only consider partnering with people that have a proven track record. They should not only be bringing value to the partnership, but they should be honest, they should be ethical, they should be fair, they should be really easy to get along with and work with. They should be the type of people that treats their customers, their employees, and their families well. I would highly recommend not going into a partnership with just a crappy person because you think it's going to help your business grow. That is the wrong way to look at a partnership. So a few things you want to consider when looking to partner with somebody is that you want to look for brand and personal characteristic alignment. And by that, I mean, do you share similar values? Is your culture fairly similar, as in your business culture? Is your target audience similar? Do you have a similar work ethic? Do you have compatible goals? These are all questions you should be asking yourself when thinking about partnering. You also, before you get into any sort of agreement, you want to make sure that you define each party's responsibilities and expectations. And you want to be able to track and measure what each party is supposed to be able to deliver, so that way you can hold one another accountable to the original agreement. You also want to set some long-term goals up front, because if you enter into a partnership for short-term, short-sighted goals and never even discuss what the future holds down the road, then you're setting yourself up for disagreement and tension down the road if your long-term goals don't align. And that partnership could potentially fall apart if you don't get that out at the beginning of the relationship. You also want to make sure that if you're entering into more of a legal partnership where you're both owning part of a business or legal entity, that you want to have a buyout plan in place. And so this is something that's typically contained within the operating agreements. If you have somebody an attorney write them up, they should be putting these in there. But you want to have a defined buyout plan. What if one partner decides to move to Europe and just wants out of the business and wants to sell? That activity has to be defined and outlined as to how that's going to play out. Does the other partner get the first right to buy, or can that person who wants out just go sell to any random person who has the money, and then all of a sudden you're left with a partner that you never even wanted to be partners with? So all that stuff has to be outlined up front, and you don't want there to be any confusion, because you could cause a lot of problems and stress and expense down the road if you don't handle these types of things up front. You also always want to consider how well your potential partner is at communicating. Like, are they like an angry communicator? Are they not communicative at all? Do they only communicate by email? Are they hyperverbal? Like, does your communication style match? And is it going to be compatible with your communication style over the long run? Poor communication, bad communication is one of the biggest reasons that partnerships end up failing or dissolving. So that's one thing that you want to keep in the back of your mind as you're considering working with somebody. You always want to make sure those communication styles are harmonious, and it's always better to over-communicate than under-communicate in most situations. So how do you go about creating partnerships or meeting potential partners? The simple answer is networking. And by networking, I don't mean like going to a bunch of brunches or cocktail parties or networking events and just haphazardly handing out dozens and dozens of business cards. That's like the most cold and impersonable way of networking that you could possibly conceive. I mean, actually developing like real relationships with people, making friends in the space, making friends that have similar interests, similar businesses, and really start to network on that level. Like, you really want to be able to pick up the phone and call these people, because that's the best way to develop any sort of relationship that has a potential for a future partnership. So you want to be able to have real, genuine conversations and connections with people. And this topic is actually worthy of its own entire podcast episode. And I'm actually really excited to announce that we'll be having Travis Chappell on the show. And if you haven't heard of him and you live under a rock or something, he's actually the creator of the super successful podcast called the Build Your Network podcast. It's a podcast that was recently featured on Forbes and entrepreneur.com. And so I mentioned before that he's been my podcast coach, and that is one of his favorite topics, is building a network, and that's what his whole show is about. So check that show out for sure if you haven't. But he'll be coming up on the show shortly. We'll be recording this next week or so, and then that show will air live in about another month. So be on the lookout for that show. It's going to have some great information on how to actually build a network, build connections with other people. And since we're on the topic of networking and partnerships, I just want everybody who's listening to know that I'm always looking to meet and connect with other entrepreneurs. I truly believe that the backbone of building any business empire that's a success is forging relationships and developing partnerships. And so if you ever want to meet up, connect, anything like that, I'd be more than happy to connect with you on a personal level and get to know people that have a like-minded mindset. So I actually wanted to let you know that I'm thinking about starting a live local meetup or some sort of mastermind group for healthcare entrepreneurs. And this could actually potentially be something that we do online, or via like a live video conference, or maybe even doing like a vacation retreat once a quarter or once every 6 months or something, and get a handful, ideally a dozen or 2 dozen entrepreneurs who are willing to just sit down with one another, build some relationships, build some friendships, have fun, talk business, and see what evolves. Maybe you could be the next partnership that's super successful. So you never know. That's something I've been wanting to do for a while. I know some other people have done similar sorts of mastermind retreats, kind of like that concept, but we might just start local or online and go from there. So if you have any interest in hanging out, connecting, networking, want to chat about business with myself or other healthcare entrepreneurs, then just reach out. My email address is jason@ketamineacademy.com. That's probably one of the best ways to get a hold of me. Check that one every day, multiple times. Or you can always connect with me on Facebook or social media as well. So just wanted to thank you guys again for listening to the episode, and hope you got a little bit of value out of this one. If you would not mind, I would love to ask you to leave a rating and review on iTunes. The only way we're able to get big name guests like Travis that have really unique perspectives, that are really experts at a certain topic. The only way to get people of his caliber on the show is to have a show that has good rankings on iTunes, gets good downloads. Luckily, I know Travis, so he's not going to say no because my show is fairly new. But some people will absolutely say no. So I would love your help getting this show ranked, getting it out to more people, getting it out to more potential healthcare entrepreneurs, so that way we can help everybody enter the world of entrepreneurship and at the same time grow the podcast. So thank you guys for doing that. I will see you on the next episode of Tactical Tuesday. Talk to you later.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy. Want to connect with more like-minded healthcare entrepreneurs and professionals? Just head over to jasonduprat.com/group to join our Facebook family for real-time interactions, insight, and resources to get you one step closer to realizing your goal. We look forward to interacting with you, but until then, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy.